reaction of the government is to your organization? Have they cracked down on you? Do they follow you?
Obviously the government doesn't like us. I mean, in 2004, when it just started, the military police demanded to take all the testimonies that we collected, saying, well, you're confessing to crimes that you did. We have the obligation to interrogate. But they didn't in the end because it got to the courts, and the court basically said that breaking the silence is a form of journalism, and therefore we have immunity, so they can't touch us. But aside from that, on the other hand, at the same time, like a high-rank officer, actually the brigade commander of the same brigade from which the soldiers that started breaking the silence, he came to participate in this panel about what the soldiers are telling about Hebron. And he came there, and in front of him was the people from the public, outraged by the stories that the soldiers tell about the reality in Hebron. And he came there and he said, well, you, the public, sent me, the army, to Hebron. So I took the soldiers with me. Basically what he was saying was, what do you want from me? You don't like this reality. Change it, you're the public. And he was right, in my eyes. The thing is that slowly it was harder and harder for the government and the military to deal with what we're saying. And the climax, I guess, was our report about the cast-lead operation, about the latest invasion to Gaza. We published testimonies showing a lot of very troubling things about the way that this operation took place. And that was no longer a political issue. That was an issue about how Israel conducts war. And that was something that the military was incapable of pushing to the side. Not the military and not even the government. They couldn't say, well, that's the public's choice. The public never chose to use white phosphorus against civilians. It never chose to use artillery at the hearts of populated areas. That's a decision that was made by generals and by, I don't know, the government members. So this time they changed tactic and started attacking us really full on. Not just the military spokesman, also the foreign minister and even Prime Minister Netanyahu saying, and again, their way of dealing with us, aside from asking our donors not to donate money to Breaking the Silence, saying that we are a political opposition and that they shouldn't support us, they were basically going towards the public in order to, I guess, delegitimize Breaking the Silence, saying that we are a company and not an NGO, that we're doing it for money, that because the testimonies are unanimous, it means that there are no soldiers behind them, that it's all hearsay and lies and I don't know what, and that we are funded by hostile governments from Europe, and now they also say that we are funded by, I don't know, Saudi and stuff like that. So they're constantly trying to find ways of not dealing with the message itself, because it's much easier to attack the organization and saying, well, these are the typical self-hating Jews, you know. It's those typical radical leftists that want to destroy the state of Israel, so don't listen to a war they're saying, and it doesn't matter if they were, I don't know, in the best units of the IDF. Yeah, so obviously they don't like us.
What exactly is a self-hating Jew?
I don't know, because I don't see myself as one. I mean, I love this country. I love the people that live in this country. I mean, I don't know if I'm a Zionist, because I don't really know what a Zionist is anymore.
We can introduce you to one.
Yeah? But I want to live here, you know, and I want to have, and I don't want to deny anybody else from the same things that I have. I mean, I don't...
You hear that phrase a lot. That's why I asked. And it's
what, self-hating Jew?
Any Jewish person who criticizes Israel is a self-hating Jew. And I've never heard that, you know, we don't call ourselves self-hating Americans if we're critical of the government. I was curious where that phrase comes from. It's not supposed to mean.
I think that this is a part of this. We have a problem with the whole issue of political debate here in Israel. that it's very narrow, the spectrum of the things that you can still say and still consider it as a patriot or I don't know what. And by the way, criticizing the military, even though we're not even criticizing the military, we're criticizing the policy, is something that is completely unacceptable here. And if you're doing it, then you gotta hate the country because there is no other way to justify it in the eyes of the typical Israeli. And I include here even my parents. Even my father cannot understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. He says, I think that you hate your country so much that it brought you to this. He says, you're almost insane. He says, you're insane with hate. And I told him, are you kidding me? You know, I'm doing what I'm doing because you taught me. You brought me up the way that you did, and that's what brought me to doing the things that I'm doing now. You brought me up to be an honest and to be a moral person, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm doing it, by the way, exactly from the same reasons that made me go to the army in the first place. The same care to the people in Israel, and not just the people of Israel. I'm not afraid to say it anymore, that, you know, a lot of time I hear it, again, from those organizations, from left-wing organizations or peace organizations, that are terrified from the criticism, so they're constantly saying, well, we're doing it just for the Israeli public. We want peace because we need peace. And I refuse to say that, because obviously the people that suffer the most from this reality are the Palestinians. And when I'm talking about justice, and when I'm talking about human rights or civil rights, then first of all I'm talking about the Palestinians. Obviously I believe that we will benefit in ways that we cannot even imagine if we stop living by our swords. But first of all, we're hurting somebody else, and therefore that's our first obligation in life. Stop hurting somebody else. If we benefit from it, for sure. But that's in my perspective, that comes second. But what's a self-hating Jew? I don't know. I don't think this thing even exists. Maybe it does, but I don't know. I think that it's just a very cynical tool in order to make people see us automatically as those, undercover anti-Semites that hate the country, so we shouldn't listen to them because in the end they want to destroy us. They are with the other side. They are with the enemy.
With us or you're against us?
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem, that it's always black and white. And not just when we're talking about the conflict, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, then it's always like this. Not just within Israel. Even outside of Israel, you always have to choose your camp.
Right.
Either with the Israelis or you're with the Palestinians. There is never something in between. And that's what we're trying to change, not just within Israel. That's why we're also giving, exhibits in Denmark and in Europe. And a lot of times people come to us and tell us, listen, it's the first time that we have hope that there can actually be peace, because we understand that, especially if it's people that came from this, that they were seeing Israelis as these monsters that are, ethnically cleansing the West Bank, and then I come there and they're telling me, well, you gave us hope that there is something in between, that there can be peace, and that's in the end what we're trying to achieve.